For Law and Crime Daily, I'm Brian Buckmeyer. A Snapchat video Paul Murdaugh sent to friends in the hours before he was murdered was played for the jury in his father, Alex Murdaugh's murder trial. As Law and Crime's Angela Levy tells us, that video is important to the timeline in the case.
A representative from Snapchat testified about when Paul Murdaugh sent that video to his friend the night of June 7th, 2021.
This video was first seen on Memories on June 7th, 2021 at 7:39 hours. Eastern.
The video shows Alex Murdaugh in a blue shirt and tan pants. Later on in the night, when he talks to law enforcement, he's wearing a white t-shirt. Prosecutors have called the video critical to their case. While it was stored at 7:39 p.m., when was it actually sent?
It was sent on the same day, June 7th, 2021 at 7:56 hours Eastern time.
The video was sent 17 minutes after it was stored. The defense suggesting that lapse in time is important to them.
Can you see on the screen the metadata for this file?
Yes.
Does it say June the 7th, 2021 at 7:38 p.m.?
Yes.
And so this was shot basically a minute before it was uploaded, is that correct?
It appears so, yeah.
Okay. And I'm sorry if that seems picky, but in this case, every minute and every second, can matter. Does Snapchat keep a list of, and I might be getting the terminology wrong, friends?
Alex Murdaugh's attorneys say he didn't kill Paul and Maggie, someone else did, and they suggested on cross-examination that anyone who could see Paul's Snapchat video that night knew exactly where he was. I'm Angela Levy, reporting from Walterboro, South Carolina for Law and Crime Daily.
A big decision on the way from Judge Clifton Newman. He heard arguments from the prosecution and testimony from witnesses to decide if evidence of alleged financial crimes committed by Murdaugh can come in. The state alleges that Alex Murdaugh murdered Maggie and Paul to distract from financial misconduct. He's accused of stealing millions of dollars from his former law firm and from accounts set up to hold money for clients as part of settlements. Since he has not been convicted of those charges, his defense team wanted that information kept out. But when Murdaugh's lawyers asked witnesses what motive Murdaugh could have had to kill his wife and son, the judge says they opened the door for the financial crime allegations to come in. The chief financial officer for the firm testified out of the presence of the jury. She says the firm had a meeting with Murdaugh to confront him about missing money, but he got a call that his father was in hospice and had to rush out. That night, Maggie and Paul were killed.
When the murders happened, that the inquiry, nobody was going to bring that up now in the wake of the murders, the Ferris fees that you had talked to Alec about the morning that Maggie and Paul were killed, correct?
That's right. It's a family-like place. Everybody was concerned for him, his family. We knew we had time to discuss this before the end of the year, and at that point, like we said, we didn't think he was stealing any money from us.
They had no reason at that time to think he was stealing, correct?
That's right.
And so it did get shelved, correct?
That's correct.
I'm joined by co-host and former trial attorney Terry Austin, as well as special guest trial mediator Dina Dahl. Terry, one second the jury's in court, the next they're excused, and the judge holds a hearing about whether financial records should come in. Can you break down the mechanics of this hearing?
Sure. This was what the judge called an in-camera hearing, and it's a Latin word. It just means in chambers. Now, generally, you have these kind of hearings in the chambers, but he had it in the courtroom, so the public was there, but the jury was not there. And the reason, the judge does not want the jury to hear all this evidence before he makes a decision. Now, he could have made this decision prior to the trial, but he said, no, we're going to wait to see. And what happened? The door was open because the defense asked a question about motive. So I think this was wise on the judge's part at this point, and we'll see what happens. We're going to listen to other witnesses, and ultimately he's going to make a decision. And he said, look, I'm going to give you time to bring these witnesses in. I don't want to be reversed. Right. Dina, no decision yet, more witnesses to come, but whether or not the jury hears this financial crimes, what do you think will happen, and what did you think about the arguments on either side?
From hearing the witnesses on the stand, so far they haven't help the prosecution very much. The prosecution has to show that this evidence is more probative than prejudicial, that it is these financial crimes, if he did it, are connected to the murder. And their witnesses are not really giving that kind of evidence yet. We'll see what other witnesses they put forward. But it is rather prejudicial, this idea of him having financial crimes. But so far, they're not linking the money to the victims, and they have to link it more, I think, in order for the judge to let any of it in.
Yeah, it seems like the arguments are running parallel to each other, not exactly intersecting, but more witnesses to come, we'll see. Another big story making headlines right now, a 30-year-old councilwoman in New Jersey is dead, shot and killed outside her home Wednesday night. Police found Eunice Dumfor in her car with multiple gunshot wounds. They believe her car traveled about 100 feet after the shooting, hitting two parked cars. The Republican councilwoman was elected to a 3-year term in Sayreville, New Jersey in 2021. Dumfor was a single mother to a 12-year-old daughter and had just gotten married after Thanksgiving. While police have said they do believe Dumfor was targeted, they have not released a motive. A rookie football player who was supposed to suit up for the Super Bowl is instead on the commissioner exempt list for now. Josh Sills was indicted on 1 count of rape and another count of kidnapping. Sills is an offensive lineman with the Philadelphia Eagles. A woman told police in Ohio back in 2019 that Sills was giving her and her cousin a ride home around 2 a.m. The victim reports she had known Sills for several years and they went to high school together. She told police that when her cousin got out, Sills pulled her back into the truck with him and groped her. She alleges he forced her to perform oral sex before eventually letting her go. Sills is due back in court February 16th, just days after the Philadelphia Eagles are set to take on the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. While he's on the exempt list, Sills cannot practice, play, or travel with the team. Nathan Chasinghorse, one of the actors who starred in the movie Dancing with Wolves, will remain in jail without bond for now. He was arrested in Las Vegas on sex abuse charges. Chasinghorse is reportedly the leader of a cult known as the Circle. He was taking multiple wives, many of them under the age of 16. Chasinghorse allegedly convinced victims that assaults were part of Native American traditions and that he was a holy medicine man. Records show when Las Vegas police searched his home, they found memory cards with videos of sexual assaults, as well as guns and more than 40 pounds of marijuana and mushrooms. Florida's governor wants to change state rules to make it easier to send convicted criminals to death row. This comes after the high-profile trial of the Parkland High School shooter. In that case, in a 9-3 decision, a jury opted to spare the life of the young man who killed 17 people at his former high school in 2018. He got life in prison instead. Governor Ron DeSantis urged Republican lawmakers to introduce legislation to allow the jury to choose the death penalty, with only 8 of the 12 jurors in favor of it. Right now, the decision to sentence the defendant to death must be unanimous. Bills filed in the Florida House and Senate are expected to be taken up when the legislative session starts in March. Terry, the U.S. Supreme Court has taken up a similar issue in death penalty cases and has even made decisions about capital punishment in Florida. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so before 2016, Florida allowed juries to vote for capital punishment by a majority vote of just 7-5. Back then, judges could even override the jury's decision and impose death. But the United States Supreme Court struck down the Florida law in 2016 in the Hurst versus Florida case. The court held that the Sixth Amendment requires a jury, not a judge, to find, quote, each fact necessary to impose death. So, based on that decision, Florida passed a new sentencing law requiring a unanimous jury recommendation to the judge to impose the death sentence. Now, after weighing the aggravating and mitigating factors. So, in 2020, the Florida Supreme Court said the legislature went way too far interpreting the Hurst case. It ruled that the Hurst decision did not require unanimous jury decision on death, just a unanimous jury decision that the defendant was eligible for death because of the aggravating factor. So, you know, it is possible, Brian, that the Florida law could be modified, but if it is, I expect there's going to be a challenge to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I can see that challenge as well. The thing I don't like about it is that it seems like he's just moving the goalposts one more. What if it's, I don't know, it's 9-3 now, it's 8-4 later, 7-5 another time? Is he just going to keep pushing the goalposts? The prosecution didn't carry their case. I think that's the issue. Don't change the law to try to help out the prosecution. During the sentencing phase of the Parkland shooter's trial, many family members understandably spoke out about the jury's decision not to give the shooter the death penalty.
He has escaped being punished to the fullest extent of the law, as I believe he should have been, knowing he gets to live out the rest of his natural life, something Elena doesn't get to do because of his disgusting and violent actions on February 14th, 2018. He has escaped this punishment because a minority of the jury was given the power to overturn the majority decision made by people who were able to see him for what he is, a remorseless monster who deserves no mercy.
Dina, if the rules in Florida do change, would that affect the Parkland school shooter's case? And if SCOTUS takes the case, what do you think they'll decide?
It wouldn't affect his. Applying a law like that retroactively would certainly violate his due process. Even if they tried, I imagine that would get reversed on appeal. So it would really be for cases moving forward. And in terms of the Supreme Court, the makeup of the Supreme Court has changed even since that earlier ruling. And that's what happens. So I could see Florida isn't the only law, if passing this, that doesn't require unanimous juries. So the fact that the other state that still exists, that hasn't gone overturned, most likely if Florida passes this law, it will get upheld.
We'll see how it plays out.